It's time that the National Party just pulls the trigger. And when I say that, I mean it's time that they get rid of Christopher Luxon, get rid of Nicola Willis, and get rid of every single useless Liberal in their caucus, because they aren't contributing value to this country. I'm not even joking when I say that the reason the National Party is failing so hard right now is they are trying to be the Labour Party. Voters see that and say, okay, well, if they're trying to be the Labour Party, I may as well vote for the Labour Party because, well, our economy just retracted by 0.9%. So, what's the harm? Well, may as well. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff that would come from electing Labour next year, don't get me wrong. But that's how many people be looking at it. Why would I vote for National? They're just Labour, but seemingly don't care about people, because that's the narrative at least. Now, I would make the argument National don't care all that much about people. They care more about power. They care more about globalism. They care more about money. That's what I would argue. And I would say, to a degree, ACT are the same, but at least their economic approach is different somewhat. So that at least makes up for their maybe slightly less humane view of the world or approach to politics. I don't really care. ACT can do what they please as far as I'm concerned at this point. They are significantly better than National. The problem with National is if voters see that they're not much different, if at all different to Labour, they will just vote for Labour. Now, I hope people learn to stop doing this. I hope they see the fact that National was too much like Labour and decide maybe we should move to the right, because that's what they need to do. People have seen that Labour was terrible and National was terrible for decades, generations. So I don't know why. I don't know what it's going to take for people to realise maybe it is just the minor parties that we need to give a chance. Not the Greens and Te Pāti Māori, because they're Marxist lunatics, but the other options. Hell, I would rather, and this is saying something, I would rather Labour voters vote for Top than Labour. Just saying. There are some issues with Top, but I would rather put pressure on Labour. Now, if that drags Labour further to the left or bring them closer to the centre, I don't know. Either way, anything that's impacting the two major parties is a good thing, in my opinion, so go for it. But those people sitting on the fence, you need to be considering, what are my actual options? Because you know what Labour does. They're useless. You know what National does. They're useless. So look at your options. Look at the economic policy of an ACT party or a New Zealand First Party, which, by the way, they are very different. If you're actually someone who is not totally averse to the economic approach of the Labour Party, but do prefer some smaller government measures that the National Party or ACT would advocate for, then New Zealand First is like the best balance of the two. Because they don't believe in big government. They do believe in responsible spending, but they're not exactly against social investment. But then again, if you're more of a conservative on the social side, there is literally only one party in Parliament right now that you can vote for, because all of the rest of them are liberal progressives. But why do I bring this up? I bring all of this up because if you look at the polling, you can see the trend. I don't even need to do my usual calculations that I do anymore. At the moment, the polling speaks for itself. And some New Zealanders are agreeing with me, at least with respect to one of these parties. Look at it. We've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 polls. And 11 if you count the bottom Roy Morgan. 10, 11 polls, all showing a trend one particular way. National's unpopular, increasingly unpopular. Labour's taken over as the number one party in this country. But even more on that, New Zealand First is consistently between 7 and 10%. Consistently. Now, I would wager that they are closer to that 10% right now. I mean, we look at 8.7, 10, 8.1. You've got 9.3s, 9s, 9.5s, 9.8s in there. I would wager they're 100% in the mid-8s to mid-9s minimum right now. ACT is falling off. ACT has fallen away slightly, especially in the last month or two. Now, I don't think if we had an election tomorrow that they would have less than they had in 2023, but who knows? The Greens, okay, this may look a little worrying because they are quite high. The Greens are more or less about where they were at the last election. Marxists don't typically become liberals overnight, so that's not particularly surprising. It is concerning given that Labour's taken from National and the Greens haven't really changed all that much. The Greens, for context, got in the tens at the last election, so kind of anything under 11 is where you'd expect. Now, ideally, they would be significantly lower, but the trend is as follows. Labor's improving, the Greens are steady, ACTA's probably steady, New Zealand First is growing, Te Pāti Māori is stable and growing, and National is useless. That's the trend. National is useless, and everyone sees it. No one likes Christopher Luxon because he has no backbone and is not delivering on what he promised. The only parties in the coalition who are truly delivering right now are ACTA New Zealand First. There's just no debate about it. Now, you can talk about all these other policies like some of the gang policy and the stuff related to crime, but the important policies that they were elected for, the economy, they're failing miserably. This was supposed to be the year of growth, and we just had a 0.9% retraction. You're failing. You've got Nicola Willis of all people as finance minister. What did you expect? Honestly. So I encourage the National Party to have a hard look at themselves and decide, you know what? Let's just look at our Liberal colleagues and say, you're the problem. Get to the back of the line. The Conservatives are taking over now. Or the less Liberal are taking over now. Because we need that. And I'm not the biggest fan of Judith Collins anymore. I did get a signed copy of her book once, which was cool. But I'm not the biggest fan of Judith Collins anymore. But I would much sooner have Judith Collins as either leader or deputy than I would Nicola Willis or Christopher Luxon. Now, I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to be the path that that National goes down, because I don't think it'll work. But I would much rather see her higher up in the rankings. I don't know where she is on the rankings right now, but I'd much rather her take a more prominent role in this government. That's just how I see it right now. But that's not who I'm really focusing on when I want to see change in the National Party. I want to see the likes of Chris Pink and Simeon Brown be in the top spots. That's what I want to see. Now, Chris Pink is arguably one of the most ideologically anonymous members in the National Party, as in he does his job very, very well. He just sticks to the talking points. But I can tell by the way he engages online that he's not your average National Party MP. He's not your average Liberal. I can tell. And everyone can tell. Everyone can tell he's a principled guy who just seems to be in it for the right reasons, as far as I'm concerned. And Simeon Brown's a Christian who is obviously in the more conservative camp within the party, who voted against abortion and things like that. So, Simeon Brown, I don't care if people want to mock you about your height and whatever. You're up there for me. As far as National's concerned, that's the route they need to take. They need to take the route of the Simeon Browns and the Chris Pinks of the party. Because if they don't, they're going to fall into oblivion. They need to start differentiating themselves from the Labour Party, not making themselves look identical. And that's what Christopher Luxon did. See, I defended the whole playing the middle thing for a while. But then when you realise that no one in the middle wants that, not really. I actually used to regard myself as a centrist for the most part, but then I soon realised that centrist politics is very incremental and doesn't get the job done. And so I moved away from centrism. I moved away from taking a more balanced approach to politics. Now I'm economically cautious. That's all I would say about my economic ideology. I'm economically cautious, but I'm socially as conservative as it gets right now. And why shouldn't I be? I'm sick of our major parties not putting our country first and deciding that money and power are more important. That's not going to get us the results that we need. And I think, despite the fact still 70% of the country, or 60 to 70% of the country haven't figured it out yet, the trend shows people are slowly waking up. The fact that 40% of voters aren't aligned with the two major parties is a good thing. That's good. 30 to 40% of the voters are waking up. Unfortunately, at least 15% of those are nutters. Marxists, ethno-nationalists, know what you want to see. But, we can't all win. National needs to wake up. They need to pull the trigger on replacing Luxon and Willis, putting in people in there like Chris Pink and Simeon Brown, those with a more conservative, right-wing flavour that frankly the country needs. We don't need the choice of liberal and illiberal. We need the choice of illiberal and conservative, or illiberal and something further to the right than whatever the hell National's doing right now. And if they're not going to do that, then I would ask every single one of you watching to completely disregard them at the next election. Completely disregard them, Labour, and the Marxist ethno-nationalists, okay? Just disregard all of them and go for whatever your flavour is out of Acton NZ first. Unless an alternative somehow in the next, 12 months pops up, but history shows that's not going to happen. But what would I know, right? I'm just a 25-year-old. What on earth could I possibly know about politics, about the electorate, about the people who are voting, about the people who are online every single day, about the people in the community who are complaining about National for these very exact reasons? What would I know? National knows best, obviously. All I'll say is that if National doesn't, and National, I'm talking directly to you, if you don't turn yourself around, if you don't figure out where you're going wrong, you will be obsolete by 2030. You won't exist anymore, or you will exist, but you'll be so insignificant that people will forget that Christopher Luxon, John Key, Robert Muldoon, anyone ever existed. Who am I kidding? Robert Muldoon, we'll always remember them. But the John Keys and Luxons of the world, we won't care about you. No one will remember you. Because what did you do? Nothing. Just help destroy our country and make our lives harder. So thanks for that. You've been warned.